What's up, everybody? So I promised you guys this some time ago that I would make sort of like a quick overview guide for what Simple Kuma can, what you can do with it, and all of its little quirks and features. In this video, I'm not going to go super in depth about things like integrating your Meta account, which I do have a video for. Some of the more advanced features that are part of it, even though it's not really that advanced. And I wanted to at least cover, for people who have never seen it before, sort of what, like I said, what it can do, okay? And remember that I built Kuma to be always free. It's forever free. I'm always updating it, and it's pretty much open source. I mean, anybody can go grab the GitHub repo and play around with it, have Hermes work on it, whatever you need to do for your own purposes. But I'll keep updating the base code. So let's just talk about what it is and how you can use it in your business, if at all. Kuma is basically like a very simplified version of something like a Red Track or a Volume or like a Clicklflare or something. And it, like I said, it's self-hosted, meaning you put this on your own website and server. This is a website that I own that I had nothing on, so I just tossed it on there. And you can make unlimited of them. You can make them for your team members. Each person in your team can have their own tracker and all that kind of stuff. So whatever use cases you want. So let's just get started with the homepage. Okay, so here at the dashboard is going to be obviously your overview for all your numbers, your conversions, your clicks, your revenue, things like that. You can take things off the chart, put them back on. And then down here, we'll have all of your campaign performance for the day, broken down by campaign. And then you can obviously change the dates and the times and all this stuff, okay? These also are sticky, meaning that if you select it and you update it, say like no archived, it will stay sticky to not show archived campaigns. So even if you log out and log back in, those stay, the settings stay that way. Visitor log is a pretty straightforward scenario. This is where you're going to be able to see all the visitors that come through Kuma. There's some cool features in here too that I will go over when I make more sections about the visitor, about doing things with the visitor log. But the cool thing is you'll be able to look at each click individually through the click lookup, and you'll be able to look at all the conversion data for any particular click. Through here, this is excluding any clicks. I called it Facebook approval team clicks, but essentially it excludes anybody that doesn't have the variables filled in. So like a lot of times when Facebook or approval teams come through, none of your dynamic variables get filled with anything. So that would just be either empty or the placeholders, right? And so if it's the placeholders, just straight up skips those clicks, because we don't want those in here, dude. Otherwise, they're going to clog your view like from here to the moon, and you don't want those. You just want to see the real clicks. So this is where you can do that. You can filter by people who clicked through, people who converted, the amount of people per page, campaigns, all of the ones you want, and then you can export this table as a CSV, and it will export all the pages. So if it's like 20 pages, it'll export all the pages, and then you can make pivot tables or whatever. Campaign overview, pretty straightforward. This is where you create campaigns. And I have a classic editor and I have a new editor. The new one's a little more interactive and easier to follow because it goes step by step, where the old one is it just shows you all the options up front. So I prefer the new editor because it's a lot easier to follow through. We'll come back to that actually. Traffic sources. All right, so here's where I have the basic traffic sources loaded in. There's nothing like crazy in here. It's all the basic sources that I would expect, like a pretty decent swath of people to use. There's some missing like Newsbreak and a couple other big ones, but I just wanted the basics. And I figured Google, YouTube, Bing, Facebook, propeller ads for push, like those are the generics. So I figured I'd have them in here. Any of these can be edited by entering into their edit, and then you can look at all of the associated variables, the currency, the cost tracking parameter, postback templates, cost tracking method, and then like I said, here's all of your tokens. You can add, I think there's up to 20. It says up to 10, but that was updated. I don't know why it still says up to 10 there. I just didn't change it. I think it's up to 20. Yeah, up to 20, maximum 20. So that's how you work with your traffic sources, okay? You can edit and you can add new traffic sources too. Like I said, from here, you can actually create from template, although the ones that are in the template are already in here, so you don't really have to worry about that. But if you deleted them, you could re-add them from the template. Offers, very, very similar. Now, there's some things I want to talk with you in future. I can look how much time I'm at. 5 minutes. Okay, perfect. So an offer, there's some cool things in here that I wanted to go over real quick. This is where you're going to add your offers, okay? And you're going to have your token capacity here for each traffic source. Like, you add the name, you add it here, and then you can click to add on. So let's say like you had like, I'm just going to do something generic here, right? Like, let's say your offer was Google, even though you wouldn't make money here. And let's say that your first token is you want to pass the click through sub ID 1. Okay, so through sub ID 1, if you had it laid out like this, you could go click ID. And now you have, Kuma will pass the unique click ID of that user through. Then you could do something like sub 2, equals, and then we could pass something to the sub too. You could pass any of your traffic source tokens, campaign key, name. Let's say that you wanted to pass something specific from Facebook. You could select Facebook here. Here's Facebook specific tokens you can pass through. So let's say like you wanted to pass through the ads at ID to the offer. You could do that. And now this link, when it reaches the offer point, the sub one's going to have your click ID. Sub two is going to have the Facebook ad set ID that we collected from Facebook. So let's go down here to two features that these are things I love that I added in. They were actually requested to me, and I think they're amazing, which is available 24/7 on your offer availability or only available during active hours. This allows you to set up day parting. So let's say that you're running like auto insurance or something and you're only allowed to run it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. You would just select those in here and then set the times. You click the little clock here and you can set the times and then set the time zone. And what will happen is even if that offer is active in your rotation in your campaign, if it triggers on these rules, it won't send the user to this offer. Okay, so it'll keep it out of rotation to stop you from losing money as long as you have another offer to fill the backup. Okay, that's one way to do it, but let's just go back to 24/7 and then cap tracking. Okay, so this is another one. So this is where also you can set an offer's cap. Let's say that daily you're only allowed 20 leads. You'd put 20 in here, you would put daily, and you'd put, in my case, I'm in Pacific time zone in the US, so I'd put PT. And now when this offer, let's say I'm rotating 3 offers inside of one campaign, say for auto or something, if it hits the cap, it will auto rotate only the other 2. You don't have to go in and unrotate or decide, like this will just do it for you. It'll just be like, Kuma will just be like, okay, the offer's out of cap, don't do it anymore. Amazing. So, and both of them work at the same time. You can work them in tandem, cap and availability schedule. And that's it. When you create an offer, you now have an offer. Landing pages, very straightforward here too. You just add your landing page in, add a landing page name, and you're good to go. You can rotate these into your campaigns and all that. And the networks is really straightforward too. Just add network names here so your offers, you know which network applies to which. Click lookup, this is going to be where you're going to get click IDs. These click IDs are ones that Kuma generates for each unique user, just like RedTrack does, just like CPV Lab does, just like Scro does, just like all trackers do. When your user comes in, they get a unique ID assigned to them from our tracker to be sent to the endpoint. So when it posts back to us, we can post back to the traffic source. And this is where you can look that up. And this is a pretty cool report, actually. It shows like user location, user agent, device, and then also there's another table lower that will show their conversion. And if they convert, and when you click that, it'll give you a flyout, like a modal that pops up that shows you the full JSON breakdown of like how it tried to post back to your other postbacks. Like say it was a meta postback and it was integrated, it will actually show you how it tried to post back to meta. It'll show you all the details it sent, everything. So if you're having trouble with your meta side, you can diagnose those problems with the click lookup. Okay. Postback URLs, straightforward as can be. This is your postback. You can obviously post back anything that it says required parameters. These are required, yeah, it says required, but these are all optional. The click ID is the only one that's actually required. I would suggest that you also post back a payout because that also will let you know, like that's obviously how you get it back to Kuma. And then tracking domain, we're going to go over this in a second, but that's going to be something that's really valuable to you too. So you also have conversion pixels, meaning like image pixels and things like that. So that's how this works, okay? But let's go into the settings now. This will be the last section we look at. I want to keep this video short, like 10 minutes, just to give a broad overview of what Kuma's capable of, and then I'm going to make more videos for setting up a campaign, setting up integration, setting up rotation, all these things, okay? But it's pretty straightforward. And also, I have some other cool things to share with you at the very end about this. So, okay, account, pretty straightforward. This is just your time zone, your dollar, your email associated, all this stuff. You can change your password. Domains. You can have unlimited custom add-on tracking domains per Kuma installation. Okay, there's no limit to this. So like a lot of trackers will say to you, oh, well, you have to pay an extra $500 a year for 20 custom tracking domains. You can add as many as you want here. It's very simple. You just add it. You put it in here, and then in the end, like we'll just put one in even though it won't work, but I'll show you what I mean. We'll just do eBay, even though eBay does not point here. So we're going to add this domain. Now we have a verification that I'll explain in a second. Obviously eBay is terrible, but if we run this little button for test domain, it's going to run a DNS check, and it's about to tell us that it failed, okay? SSL is okay for that site, but it's not pointing to our server. So it's saying like, you can't use this as a tracking domain because it's not pointing here. You can bypass this if you want. Sometimes you have to because the verification will fail and you still want to use it. We're actually just going to remove this guy. But what would happen is, let's say, and for people who don't understand custom tracking domains, sometimes you want to have different URLs that all funnel through the same tracker. For example, if you have two verticals, let's say you have auto and you have like life insurance, you don't want to say like lifeinsurancepremier.com or autoinsurancepremier.com, but you want both those URLs to funnel to the same tracking system. You can do that with Kuma by adding them as additional tracking domains and then following the little guide below here on, or it's after you add it, sorry. It will show you a guide below on how to put them into your server and how to have them share the root with your server and stuff. It's pretty neat. So you can basically have as many as you want, okay? On any Kuma installations that you have anywhere, you can add as many of those as you like. Integrations, this is how you integrate your Facebook and custom postbacks. So like in the case of adding an integration for Meta, this is where you would add your pixel for, like, let's say you're running auto insurance with Meta. You'd have your auto insurance pixel, you'd go get that ID, the token. This is all very common tracking stuff. And then what kind of postback you want for it to Meta. You want to do it as a lead or whatever. And this would become selectable in the campaign creation screen. Okay, and then you could tie that there. Okay, so let's talk API cost updates, okay? So this is how you get real-time API cost updates from Meta. You would add an integration, and then down here, what you're gonna see is that you have to add in this integration name, your token. You receive this from the Meta business settings, okay? And it's very easy to get to. I actually made a video on how to make this. Any user can make this with their account, and it gives access to all of your ad accounts. When you select here, it'll fetch them all and put them in a list. And then you can create this integration, and then you'll have all your Meta accounts to be able to be read to for cost tracking. And then here, you would run this cron command on your server every hour, or however often you choose. You could run this cron script right here. And like I said, I've had people already tell me that they can set this up with automation. Has helped them set this up super easily using AI. But you would create a cron script, and you can set this script as whatever time zone or time refresh you want. Once every 5 minutes, once every 10 minutes, once every 30 minutes. As long as you don't hit your 200 limit cap per hour on Meta, you can call as many times as you want. And then keep it in your mind as an example. Just think that for every one campaign call you make, say you have like 5 campaigns and you're calling to get their costs every 10 minutes, that's 5 calls every 10 minutes. So 5 times 10, right, is 50. You'd be you'd be about over at the hour, right? You'd be very, very close. So or no, sorry, what am I talking about? 200 per hour, duh. You'd be way under by the hour, sorry. So I was thinking 60 for some reason. So like 5 times 10 is 50, and that's every, like I said, that's only 10 times. If you're doing it every, like let's say 5 calls every 10 minutes. Yeah, there's 6 of those, so you can do the math. It's pretty easy. Like, you just have to think in your mind, 1 campaign, 1 call every time you make the call, okay? So if you have 10 campaigns calling once every 30 minutes, right? You're making 10 calls every 30 minutes. That's only 20 calls per hour. Okay, does this make sense? So it's actually pretty simple, and you can actually track a lot with this cap. And the more users you have in your BM or whatever, the more this cap is. So it's going to be rare that you run up against this ceiling in most cases. Data retention, this is all just basics that you can leave the way they are. It's just about your clicks and all this stuff, and anonymizing people's IPv4 addresses. All this stuff's pretty, I would say for 99% of users, you can leave everything in here exactly the same. Campaign groups, this is just you creating a simple group that you can label your campaigns and put them in a folder. The reason why this is pretty neat is because if you make this and you go back to the dashboard, if you're looking at your campaigns view, you can actually fly out entire folders that have similar campaigns, and it will group all the campaigns in that folder under that name. So like, let's say that your group is for auto, and you have like campaigns for like other things like home services, roofing, all this stuff. If you have a group for just auto and all your auto campaigns are in that group, it'll actually do the numbers for just all those campaigns together in a full list view of everything. So you can be like, oh, auto today is up 20-something% ROI as a whole of all the campaigns it's running under auto. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So, okay, so data management. This is where you can delete clicks. You can do all kinds of things. You can manually update conversions in here to campaigns, all that stuff. Geolocation, this is, I grabbed all the free databases for geolocation, the ones that I think I'm pretty positive based on my understanding that these are allowed to be shipped with it, since these are all free databases and Kuma is completely free, will never be charged for. So I believe that it's okay to ship these with the situation. Updates, this is not currently working yet. Updates will be in the near future, where Kuma will auto update from the Git repo. And then about is just about me and about the build process and all that stuff. Nothing fancy in here. That's pretty much a good overview, a basic, oh my, like 15 minutes, perfect. Overview of Kuma and kind of like what it's for, how you can use it. And then soon we'll talk about the campaigns portion, about how you can set up full rotation when you create a campaign through here. You can use your custom tracking domains, cloaking mode. Cloaking just means like, blanking your refer and stuff like that, the group, all this. And then your traffic source. We'll go over setting up a campaign. I'll make another video for that specifically, setting up your very first campaign. But as far as the situation goes, like as far as how Kuma is supposed to help you, it's supposed to be just a free, self-hosted, all-around tracking solution that you can use for Google campaigns, Meta campaigns, Propeller ads, campaigns, however you see, and you can rotate landing pages, offers, and all the stuff I showed you. And also, by the way, I forgot to mention that cost with the, let me double check with Propeller ads. Propeller ads tracks cost by a cost token. It's manual, so you just append it in the campaign versus like a Meta where the campaign tracks cost by an API. So you can set up both with Kuma. So, okay, I hope that was a help. I'm sorry that this video was so delayed. I have so much stuff going on that I was trying my hardest to get back to it. But I will be trying to follow up closely behind this with setting up new campaigns and how that works. And the thing I was trying to tell you guys at the end was I'm building an API for this right now. So every Kuma will come with a API that things like Hermes and Claude Code, Codex, all those can access. So this tracker can be automated by some of those AIs that can come in here, put your offers in, the landing page, get the landing page codes, put them on your pages for you, set up the rotations, set up the day parting, set up the cost capping. I'm sorry, not the cost capping, the cap, so that if it runs out of cap, so that AI can fully control Kuma. So you can have a bunch of these installations on different websites if you want, and have like a central AI that runs everything for you and does all your tracking for you. So I hope that was a good overview. I hope this is really helpful to people. Once again, I am the solo developer. This is 100% free. It's never going to be charged for. And I do take requests for feature upgrades. I've already gotten quite a few that I'm working on. And I'm still working every day on making the base more and more stable. And every time I have a release, you'll see it on the Git repo link, where it'll just be a new version, like version 1.14, 1.15, 1.16. I have a new version going out today, in fact, for some bug fixes that were brought to my attention. So anyway, hope you guys really enjoy it. And I look forward to people using it and giving me feedback on what they think. So I'll see you guys in the next one where we set up a campaign. Bye-bye.